All right, we're back on 80 in the morning with a very special guest, presidential candidate Tom Steyer, on the phone with us today. Tom, thanks so much for joining us.
Aaron, it's a pleasure to be with you.
I just want to start by letting you know who I am. I've done some research, so I know who you are. I am an average Joe Schmo Midwest American with 5 kids, 3.5 acres and a mortgage, 5 dogs, couple donkeys, and I'm not a platform voter. I vote all over the place based on who I think the best people for the job are, in my opinion. I think a lot of our listeners and Americans in general are disillusioned and generally disgusted by what we're seeing in Washington, and that goes for both sides of the aisle. Democrats and Republicans just point their fingers at each other. What happened to accountability? What happened to the American dream? What happened to a compromise? And why are you the best person for the job of president?
Well, Aaron, the funny thing is the reason that I'm running for president is I think the system is broken.
And you're right.
You're saying.
Yeah.
I think it's been purchased by corporations. I don't think the government's even trying to represent the American people. And I've spent the last decade putting together coalitions of ordinary American citizens, just the way you're describing yourself and your listeners, to take on unchecked corporate power. And for a decade, we've been winning.
Well, you've done a lot, that's for sure. In doing research for this interview, I was blown away because you're kind of portrayed in the media as like this new guy. You know, and in reality, that's nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, you go all the way back to the Mondale campaign in the 80s. You were a potential candidate for some of the cabinet positions in the Obama administration. I mean, you've been around, Tom Steyer. You know this game very well. You're not a newcomer to this whatsoever, and you've just found ways to try and make the influences on the things that you see most important, and on the top of that list is climate.
You know, that is one of the things I'm different from everybody else who's running for president on, Aaron. You know, I've said climate's my number one priority. I'm the only person who will say that. I've said I would declare a state of emergency on day one, and that I do it from the standpoint of environmental justice to make sure that we clean up the air and water in the parts of America, mostly black and brown communities, where it isn't safe to breathe or drink the water. But I've also said that this is a chance for us to create literally millions of good-paying union jobs across this country. We need to rebuild the country, and that means the biggest job, program in history. It also means that we're going to clean up the air and water, so we're going to be healthier, and we're going to reinvent America as the moral leader of the world, because we have to and because we can. So when I talk about climate, people think it's just because we have to do it, and we absolutely do have to do it. It is a crisis. It's also the biggest opportunity we have to come together and do something as a nation, to stand up for really who we are as a value-driven, moral group of people, to create millions of good-paying jobs, to have more justice, and to really have a United States that stands for something again.
I mean, I love hearing you say that, because I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but you really think that's possible with our political system currently and the way that it is? I mean, we elect people to serve in office for us. They're our leaders. We look up to them. But what do? They point at each other. They say it's his fault, not our fault. It's their fault, not my fault. It's just goes on and on and on. And now we see a trickle-down effect to people. They get on social media and blame everybody else for all their problems. Nobody seems to want to be accountable for anything anymore. And I don't wonder, after reading all this stuff on you, I was like, why doesn't this guy just reinvent the Green Party? Get him to some sort of rationale. And because I'll tell you this, I got 2 16-year-old kids, and they both talk about wanting to get into something environmental because they worry about the future. They don't know if they want to have kids because they're worried about what it might be like in the future. And there's a slice of me that has that worry in the back of my mind all the time. I worry about them. You know what I mean?
Aaron, you've got 5 kids.
Yes, sir.
I've got 4 kids.
Okay.
One of my kids told me last week, and this is something that your kid said to you, that she doesn't want to have kids if we don't do the right thing on climate. And I was like, no, don't go there. We're going to solve this. We're better than that. This is what America was built for, the world's biggest challenges, and do them in a way that make us better, that pull Americans together, take on the biggest challenges together, succeed, win together, reinvent the country. I said, honey, don't go there. Let's just do the right thing together and have a world where we all look forward to the future and we hand on a better America. Aaron, don't Don't go to the despairing place. This is a chance for us to actually be really optimistic. And let me say this. You're asking me why I think I should be president. I'm also the person, we know that this election is going to be about the economy. At least if Mr. Trump isn't removed from office, he's already said what he's going to do. He's going to talk about the fact that Democrats don't know anything about economics and that the world will fall apart in terms of the economy if it disappears. He said, if the Democrats are in office, everything will fall apart in 15 minutes. The Democrats are going to have to win. We need a candidate who actually knows how to take him on in the economy and win, right in his supposed strength and take him down. And I spent 30 years building a business from scratch, knowing what it means to create prosperity, to create jobs, to actually grow. And so I have a completely different background from everybody else. I actually have built a big international business from nothing. So if we need a Democrat who can go after Mr. Trump and expose him as a fake business person and a very bad steward of the American economy, and speaking to people in Iowa, you have to know that between his big tax giveaways to rich people and his trade war, he has been a terrible representative of the American people on the economy.
I'll be honest with you, Tom. I don't know how much people really care about all that stuff. You know what I mean? They do. I mean, obviously, and it's in the media constantly, but folks are more, the folks I talk to are more worried about paying their mortgage, making their combine payment, because, farmers have been taking it pretty hard in the Midwest, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and a lot of it has to do with tariffs. And we know, all about that stuff.
I mean, that's exactly the point. I'd get rid of his tariffs on the first day. He made a terrible decision, and he's doubled down on it, and it's hurting people in Iowa. That's economics. I mean, we use fancy words for it. I agree with you. But all it really comes down to is people aren't getting good prices, and they're losing markets in terms of agriculture, and he's done a terrible job in terms of helping people's incomes go up. It's not complicated. He is representing corporations against people. That's all that's going on.
Well, I think I'm a bit of a history nerd, I got to confess. And, I mean, our country's been, corporations have had their finger in the pie of this country from the beginning. I mean, let's face it, our founding fathers were people who, they were the well-to-do folks who were colonists who didn't really want to deal with all the taxes from the British. I mean, I worry less about that stuff, and I worry more about just the attitude, our society in general. Now, you know a bit about the American dream. You're living it, sir, and I'm trying. I grew up in a trailer park, and now I'm up to 3.5 acres with a pretty nice house and some kids and an amazing wife and a good life. I'm a pretty happy guy. But, there's so much just... And again, I really feel it starts at the top with our elected officials. Nobody wants to take accountability. Everyone's, it's just, you get tired of it. People are burnt out. You like to bring up the fact that 50% of the population doesn't even vote. You're absolutely right. It's because they just don't figure it matters anymore. And
they don't think there's a good side to be had.
Right, exactly. And that's why I thought, man, maybe he could renovate the Green Party, because that's what, in the future, if the climate continues to do the things it does, who knows? That might actually be a viable thing. But
Aaron, what I'm saying is this. If we show up, if that 50% of Americans who don't vote because they're so disgusted actually show up, we change everything.
Absolutely.
We win everything. We get rid, and I'm saying, look, I'm asking for term limits. 12 years for Congress and Senate because we need new people in there.
I can tell you the people of Illinois would like to hear that.
we need new people in there. I'm talking about direct democracy. Having the people be allowed to gather signatures, put a law on the books, and pass our own laws because we can't, the system's gotten that bad. I'm really talking about structural change. Power, if you look at my record, what you see is grassroots organizing to get people involved and get their voices heard and taking on corporations and beating them for over a decade. And that's really what I'm talking about here is take the power away from the people inside the Beltway and the corrupt elites and give it to ourselves. Get it back to the people where it belongs. That's what I've been pushing for a decade, successfully. That's what we need to do in Washington, D.C. I mean, you're saying your life's pretty good, which is great.
Yeah.
But we all are getting held hostage by drug companies writing rules about what they get to charge us.
Don't even get me started on that. I agree.
But I'm just saying, it's corporate it is corporations owning the government.
Absolutely.
And so all the things we all want, we can get, but first we've got to break the stranglehold that these corporations have on our government. And I've been successfully fighting that for a decade, and that's what I stand for.
Well, I appreciate what you stand for, and I like your message, and I hope you can get some traction with it, because I think we need more people who really take a look at what's going on. I started this show about 4 years ago and really started to pay more attention to what was in the media and what people were really saying and what was really going on, not just what was being reported. And it's kind of gross, Tom. I'm just saying. It's upsetting, and I worry about the future so much.
And that's exactly why I'm running. Literally, people say, why are you running? I say, because no one was leveling with the American people about what's really going on. They were talking about important policy decisions, but they weren't leveling with why is it that none of these things are happening in the real world. And the interest of these corporations don't want it to happen. They don't want to end gun violence because gun manufacturers like selling guns to whoever shows up. Okay?
Yeah.
So only the people can stop that. And that's exactly why I'm running, is to say, take back the power of by and for the people.
Well, Tom, I sure appreciate your time. I know they said we only had 10 minutes, and we've already run over a little bit here. Would you like to give where folks can go to hear more about you? Or I know
yeah. Thank you for doing my job. I really appreciate it.
Well, you get used to. I understand what you have a reason that you're willing to do an interview with us, and I appreciate that. And I'm all game. So
it's TomSteyer.com. My name, as my mother used to say, is ST as in tomato, EYER. TomSteyer.com.